There's yet a new proposal to tax extreme wealth in the Western world. This one comes from the United States. I'm going to share with you the details and give you an insight into the mind of the people who want to take more of your money. When the current Russia-Ukraine war broke out, I made a very raw video and shared the personal side of this. What I didn't talk about in that video, because I didn't think it would be appropriate at the time, was that politicians, primarily in high-tax Europe, have been trying for years. And if you live in the United States, if you live in Australia, if you live somewhere else, you may not have seen this, but they have really been trying to tie anyone who is highly financially successful and lives a certain lifestyle with oligarchs. It plays well. If you call wealthy people oligarchs, people get this idea of graft, of corruption, of wasted spending, all the things that trigger voters in countries where people, the countries are becoming irrelevant, the people are paying the price, the politicians are doing nothing to solve it other than trying to take more of your money. And today I'm going to share with you how one group in the United States is putting forth a new Oligarch Act to tax extreme wealth and why that should concern you. Now, if it's your first time here, my name is Andrew Henderson. I'm the founder of Nomad Capitalist. We're a boutique consulting firm that helps 7- and 8-figure and higher entrepreneurs and investors who want to legally reduce their taxes, protect and diversify their wealth around the world, and have freedom and options in this crazy world, whether that's a second passport, real estate overseas, investments overseas, you name it. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com, and we also host the biggest and best offshore conference called Nomad Capitalist Live. Open, even if you're not part of the evil rich, you are welcome to come. This is from a website called commondreams.org. It appears to be one of those pinko rags. Please meet the oligarch tax to tax extreme wealth. It's a straightforward, progressive annual tax on extreme wealth because, leave it to people who've accomplished nothing in their life to demonstrate what's extreme. And it's so simple that the oligarchs are gonna hate it. Now, this article is not being written in Russian. I'm not translating this from something that was written in Eastern Europe. This is in the United States. In fact, at the very top of the article is a picture of Jeff Bezos and his girlfriend in New York City. They want to paint Jeff Bezos as an oligarch. They want to change the definition. Do you notice how in society today, everything is about changing definitions, all right? Words don't mean what they used to mean. Words don't mean what they mean in the dictionary. Oligarch has a meaning, and now they want to expand it because it's politically convenient to tie in people who actually created their wealth, who actually played by the rules, who follow all the laws. Maybe the politicians should be to blame if they think people have too much wealth because they allowed certain things to happen. But in capitalistic societies, I thought creating wealth and creating jobs, that was a good thing. But when the country is headed in the wrong direction, when inflation and competition from workers in other countries means wages are stagnant and expenses are going up, people get angry and they want to blame someone. Think they're going to blame Bernie Sanders? Think they're going to blame Elizabeth Warren? Think they're going to blame Justin Trudeau? No, they would rather blame you. So here's the tax that Common Dreams and its proponents wants to put in place so that people can feel better about themselves. The danger that extreme wealth poses to democracy is ever present, and the idea that it must be restrained is almost as old as democracy itself, really. In 1792, Thomas Paine wrote that the freedom of elections was violated by the overbearing influence of inherited wealth and proposed an extremely aggressive wealth tax that would have put a hard ceiling on just how much wealth a person could accumulate. So hold on, this is a common trope that they use in going against people who are wealthy. I came from a successful family, and they no doubt taught me some things. They enforced you have to get an education. They taught me a certain way of thinking that as I've gone out into the world as an adult, not the world as different countries, but just the world in the United States even, most people didn't have that. Most people were not encouraged to be entrepreneurs. They were encouraged just to follow what everyone else is doing. And so I didn't have that. But my actual inheritance, zero. I suppose one day, perhaps something will come in, but I've not benefited from any loans or connections. My parents are not politically connected to any extent that helped me. I'm not trying to downplay their success, but I'm trying to say that they wanted me to do it on my own. When I went to my father and said, hey, when I was a kid, could I borrow some money? I want to start this venture. He's like, you got to figure it out yourself. That was how it came. And you know what? Everyone I know, and most of our clientele, that's what they did. They started something themselves and they figured it out. And this idea that anyone who has extreme wealth has some kind of connections, they're doing backdoor deals at City Hall, they're contributing to I don't know anybody in Congress. I don't know a Congress. I don't know anybody in U.S. politics that helped me get ahead. I certainly have met some politicians and ambassadors around the world. Has it really helped progress my business beyond hanging a photo on my wall? I can't say that it has, other than it's been incredibly personally rewarding to meet the president of a country or get a letter of commendation from the prime minister of another country. That's helpful, but is it really what's driving the business forward? Is it really what's creating my wealth? No, but yet the idea here is if you've got extreme wealth, it must be because you know somebody or because you inherited it, and yet look at what percentage of North Americans never inherited any money. It's something like more than 3/4. And those that only inherited money after they already had money puts it up to almost 9 out of 10. So talking in North America about how everybody's inheriting wealth and buying off politicians, I don't know if I've ever made a political contribution in my entire life. And so Payne's plan, the article continues, to fix this problem was the right one, taxation. Well, of course. And I'm no doubt guessing these people benefit from taxation. They're one of the consultants. They're one of the consultants on some of these deals, right? That's why it costs $800,000 to build one little housing pod for the homeless in Los Angeles these days. All the consultants. America's ever-increasing inequality has motivated recent tax proposals targeting the ultra-rich, but the primary purpose has been to raise revenue without any reduction in our concentration of wealth being incidental. So understand the change, and I've told you this story before, sitting on a plane next to a guy who worked at, I think, the United Nations. I was in Turkey, going to somewhere else in Turkey, and he's saying, yeah, we like to kind of spoon feed things to people. We don't like to just jam it down their throats all at once because people can't take that. They like to get a little bit at once, and then we just kind of eventually get what we want rather subversively. And see what they've done here. For years, for decades perhaps, it's been, you got to pay your taxes for schools and roads and bridges. And my thought was always, well, that's great. Why don't we just pay user fees? If you want to discount things for certain people who maybe don't have the ability, there's certain people who really do have a problem. Okay, fine, maybe you do that. But if it's really about, are you paying for your roads and bridges, you either put a toll on the roads and bridges, or you say, all right, here's your share for the roads and bridges. The fact that you're Jeff Bezos, you're not using the roads and bridges anymore. Oh, well, his trucks use the roads and bridges. Well, I run a business. I don't have trucks. And if you want to tax his trucks, then fine, put a toll or have some kind of system. But when is Jeff Bezos paid for enough roads and bridges? When is Elon Musk's $10 billion paid for enough roads and bridges? But that wasn't really the goal. They were spoon-feeding that to you because what it is, they hate you. They hate that you're wealthy. They're jealous. It's a human trait. It's okay. The jealousy was, I think, somewhat subdued for a long time because everyone had enough. Everyone had their 3 cars and their 5 TVs and things were looking up and people had optimism. Now that evil jerks like me decide, you know what, I'd rather, for many reasons, go and hire in Georgia, in Serbia. I get treated better. I get thank you notes from people, from politicians. I get lower cost. I get nicer people to work with. I have less of the bureaucratic stupidity. I'm going to go there. Now, you know what? We've got 60-some people working here now. None of them work in the United States. And so, yeah, multiply that times a lot of people, and you can see why the economies of some of those other countries are going up, and the economy where you live is flat. And so people are angry, and so the jealousy is coming out more. And so now what the politicians are doing is it's not about raising revenue. That was always the smokescreen. We need more revenue. Do you really need more revenue? Right? I mean, why not do more with what you have? How many families are doing that? You're doing more with what you have. How about you cut what they always say, the waste, fraud, and abuse? You're never going to do that. Side note, why you want to live in a smaller country. A lot easier to root out the waste, fraud, and abuse. But now the issue is not about raising revenue. Who cares, the article says, basically about raising revenue. They don't oppose any of these revenue proposals, they say. But here's the line. We believe the United States needs a tax designated exclusively with the purpose of addressing the threat that our extreme concentration of wealth poses to democracy. Now, by the way, they could put things in place. Listen, I don't deal in U.S. politics to the extent of what proposals should happen. I'm sure you could figure out a way to make it so that you can't have undue wealth influencing elections. By the way, if you have freedom of speech in a country, people should be able to put their money to causes that they believe in. That's the benefit of having money. Maybe more people should go out and try it. It is the easiest time on record for anybody to go out and create wealth for themselves, especially if you're sitting in the United States. We started Nomad Capitalist with a website. It was a domain purchase for $8. It was a website hosting plan and a bunch of free software and personal work by me. And we didn't make money for a while because that wasn't the goal initially. But if you wanted to make money, you could figure out a way to make money. You can start a business for like $20 these days, right? And so people aren't doing it. And by the way, I'm not judging those people, but I will complain if they decide to judge me or judge you for the fact that you perhaps did the same thing and you built something from $20 or $1,000 or whatever it is that you started at, and they believe that that's affecting the democracy because they hate you. They don't want your revenue. They want you to suffer. They want you to suffer because they're angry. You figured out how to take $20 and turn it into a multi-million-dollar empire, and now you get to live around the world. Now you get to have the freedom to do what you want. Now you don't have to hang out with them when they become toxic drains on your life. You don't have to stay in relationships. You get to choose whatever you want to do. You get to eat what you want to eat. You get to go. Maybe you post a picture on Instagram. They don't like it. Now, I'm not saying you should flaunt your wealth. I don't live on social media. You're not going to see me. But the point is, why is it that it's not about revenue? And why is it they can't solve the problem of the threat to democracy? Because they don't like you having money. So here's the proposal. The oppose limit. Don't you love how everything is has to be like a title? Oppose limitless inequality growth and restore civil harmony. Oligarch Act. That's the Oligarch Act. That's what they're putting forward. A straightforward progressive annual tax on extreme wealth. Who defines extreme wealth? Well, they do. Interestingly enough, by the way, if I were generating it, if I were thinking, I'd be like, how much is extreme wealth to me? All right, $500 million or more. All right, I don't have $500 million, so therefore, that sounds like extreme to me. It's all progressive, right? You know what extreme wealth is to some people in the world? Now, by the way, the system that these people hate so much, the capitalistic system that's reduced extreme poverty in the world from over half, potentially in your lifetime, if you're a little bit older, down to like 10%. Okay, it's trickled back up a percentage point or two thanks to the pandemic. But it was like 9% down from over half in the last century. Capitalism did that. No words to be said about that from them. They hate it. They don't know where their bread is buttered. That's their biggest problem. They don't know what actually works. They just know that they live in this pool that always gave them 5 TVs. And now they're angry they don't have 5 TVs anymore. But don't you think for some people in the world, having 5 TVs or 4 TVs or 3 TVs or 1 TV is too much? How many pairs of shoes do people have? Why do they have 1 pair of shoes? That's an old argument, no doubt. But what is extreme wealth? The same way that for me, extreme wealth is $500 million, right? I'm sure what I have, for many people, will be considered extreme wealth. Why? Because they don't know the difference. They don't know the difference between, honestly, I believe most people do not know the difference between Jeff Bezos and whatever he has, $130 billion, and a guy with $20 million. And I think that applies to every strata of society, right? I mean, go and look at any kind of like relationship. I don't think the average person just knows the difference. Do you have a nice car? Do you have a nice house? Like you have a mansion? And by the way, if you don't have a mansion, people are like, oh, you can't possibly be wealthy. I've known people who are like, you don't have a car, you must be broke. No, I just choose not to have a car. This is the kind of thinking that these people, this is what's around this, right, is extreme wealth. Maybe I'll escape it. Maybe if I don't have a car. Although, now I'm getting the car. Nabbit. Anyway, this is a straightforward progressive annual tax on extreme wealth, which they've just defined. So here's the definition. Instead of being defined to an arbitrary amount of wealth, say 50 million, because why nail anything down when the goal is just to screw with people you don't like and are jealous that they've accomplished things you couldn't? The tax would have 4 brackets based on a household's wealth compared to that of the median American household. 2% on wealth between 1,000 and 10,000 times median household wealth. 4%, by the way, what if the median household wealth is negative? What if just everyone keeps going into consumer debt? And what if housing prices go down because the government mismanaged and people like this mismanage the economy and everything falls? What if the median number is 0 or negative? What happens then? I don't know that would happen, but 2% between that. 4% on wealth. I mean, imagine 4% on wealth. At the same time, like, okay, I get if you get $50 million, you're not keeping your money in a savings account. But savings accounts are up to like what? I think there's some online back up to 1% now in the U.S. You go overseas, 2, 3, 4%. Okay, fine. You can put all your money in Armenia and get 4%. But you're getting 1% on your money. That's the interest rate, which, by the way, I would imagine these kind of people are doing. These people are not doing, like iron butterfly, like swing trade. These people don't know any kind of complex financial stuff, or they wouldn't have their stupid views. So 4% is the annual tax. You put your money in the bank, and not only does it get inflated away, you get 1%. So basically, by the way, that's the goal. The goal is every year you're 3% poor until eventually, 30 years from now, you got nothing. And now you're just like them. And that's the best part for them. 4% up to from 10 to 100,000. 6% between 100,000 and $1 million times median household wealth, and 8% over that. Imagine 8% in 12 and a half years. You're broke. You're out on your tuckus. Currently, the threshold for taxation under our proposal would exceed $100 million. But again, you're not even in control, and that's the goal. They don't want you to be in control. They think that everyone who has wealth is in such great control. And by the way, no doubt you can find, let me just put myself on the record, no doubt you will find people who are abusing their wealth, who are taking advantage of the system. And again, I don't have a voice in U.S. politics anymore, and I don't simply care about it. It's not my place anymore. But I think ethics is an important part, and all the people that I've known in my life are ethical. We've had a very small number of clients where they're legal, but I question their business model. And so we try not to work with those people, because I think ethics matters in capitalism. And everyone that I've known in my life, listen, if I grew up in Omsk, Russia, maybe I would feel differently. Maybe I wouldn't. But where I come from, the people that I know operate both legally and ethically. And someone who doesn't, I don't have time for that. But the idea that we're all lumped in, the idea that everyone who's wealthy is avoiding taxes. If I lived in the United States and I ran my business from the United States, I would pay a boatload in taxes. And I would pay for more than my share of roads and bridges and schools and everything else. And yet, everyone would think, oh, he's some fat cat avoiding tax. Right? Because, by the way, just because I live in the United States, I wouldn't be investing in the United States and depreciate everything through real estate and following all that, the way that, for example, Robert Kiyosaki, who spoke at our last conference, talked about. I wouldn't be investing all my money in one country and taking advantage of some of the benefits there. So, structuring a tax this way specifically targets the extreme concentration of wealth. This tax would wax and wane along with wealth concentration, rather than in response to legislative tweaking. It would automatically kick into high gear during periods of worsening inequality, when wealth at the top is increasing faster than wealth in the middle. Just an idea. Are we all responsible for our lives? Or if you're wealthy, the fact that you created something that everybody loves and that's why you became wealthy, now you've got to be responsible for what everyone else is doing with their wealth. By the way, when there was a wealth tax, whenever they talk about putting in a wealth tax, like Elizabeth Warren, they always want to count things like art, classic cars, stuff that the average person wouldn't put in their net worth. Does that mean when we're calculating the net worth of the average person, we're going to add in a 2015 Prius? Are we going to add that into their net worth? I don't really think most people are adding that to their net worth. I suppose if they have a liability, you do have to count the asset, you count the liability in the car loan. But are we counting the average person's just random little assets? No, probably not. But they'll certainly count yours. This is the divide. Oh, they say it's class warfare against the middle class. No. You built a business. You played by the rules. You paid them a fortune in taxes working your way up. You weren't a rich fat cat when you were starting the business the first time you made $1 million. You paid a lot, more than anybody else some of their entire life. And now you're the one causing all the problems. The tax would exclusively apply to those whose wealth, if allowed to grow unchecked, could be unhealthy for our society. Why is it unhealthy that people create it? By the way, everyone who tells me, Andrew, this Nomad Capitalist stuff is crap because everyone's trying to come to the United States. Yeah, how many billionaires are trying to come to the United States? I read an article, like some guy from China, one guy's opening a factory in Reno or something. One guy. How many billionaires are leaving? Not a lot. So if you want to have a country that claims that you're creating the ultra wealthy, then you're chasing them away by saying that they are unhealthy for your society. Who would want to come to a country like that? And why do you want to stay in a country? All right. I've been working on this. Then they go, okay, now they're using Thomas Piketty's analysis and a bunch of other, okay. You can go and read the article for yourself. But here's the bottom line. This is what's coming. They keep doing this. There's more. Is this one going to make it through? There's so many. How many episodes have we done? We used to only talk, get this passport, get that passport. I think it's important that you know just how many crazy proposals are out there, not just in the United States, but all around the world. Wealth tax is the number one tax trend that we've seen in the last 2 years. Now they finally have the means. Pandemic opened up the means. People, this is a hot button issue. Eventually they will push something through. Could be unrealized capital gains, could be retroactive, could be wealth, could be any of the above. But they want to push this through. They're going to keep pushing. And people are coming over to their side. As I've told you, when I was a kid and I was reading Time magazine, like in 2000 or 1999, some lunatic was running for the presidency, some guy who would get 20 votes. And he said, let's have a maximum wage of 100 grand. That's the most you can earn. After that, okay, all right, I'll earn my 100 grand tomorrow, and then I'll just sit on my behind. And, I don't need anybody working for me. I'll manage the business that makes 100 grand a year. And hey, why do I need all the hassles and the risk and the stress and all that? Now, what people also understand is, as an entrepreneur, I want to empower people. I want to watch people grow. I want to serve people. I want to be part of creating something. They don't get that. They just think it's all about extreme wealth. And so if you are in my camp and you believe in creating value and you've done that and you've proven yourself, all the things we talk about, say it again and again, have a residence permit, have a second passport, have a place where you can go, get familiar with somewhere else where you can go so that the next time they propose some new crazy tax, you don't have to be uncomfortable saying, well, we can't leave New Jersey. No, you're ready to go because you have that home and you have that comfort level in Portugal and you have the second passport and you are ready. You don't have to leave your country, but what I'm preaching right now is have infrastructure in place where you have finances offshore, report them legally, fill out any form you have to, play by the rules. But have some finances offshore, have a backup place, have a passport, have a whole infrastructure for yourself that when the next big shoe drops, you're ready to react. And when it finally becomes too much, I can handle 42% total tax, but 48, I've had enough, and I'm tired of being the bad guy, you have a place to go, and you don't have to just sit there and take it. If you're making the kind of money that even if anywhere close to this kind of money, you can afford to get this stuff in place. Residence, passport, home, optionality. Do it before it's too late.